Tony Petitti, Curt Cignetti, they made it clear today they're not backing down.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Illinois' record prediction. We'll have some sound from Brett Bielema, Matt Rhule, and Nebraska, and their record prediction all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So here at Big Ten Media Days in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Resort, Tony Petitti, of course, took the stage first, and Curt Cignetti took the stage, and both fielded questions from myself and others about scheduling and the playoff and whatnot. And I want to start with Curt Cignetti because, boy, he's a great interview. I mean, if you're looking for a guy, Brett Bielema is also a great quote and a great soundbite. Curt Cignetti is a guy that is always going to tell you what he thinks and why he thinks it. Took a pretty direct shot at the SEC. I asked him why scheduling a home-and-home series with Virginia, which I've been very critical of on the show and remain in that mindset. Shocker, my opinion hasn't changed since last Friday. I think that he, really, I don't think he got overly defensive, but he did take a shot at the SEC. I wasn't gearing him in that direction. I just asked him, hey, why did you want to do this, and why do you think that that's great for fans? He didn't really get to the second part because I don't think there is a good answer as to why canceling a home-and-home series with a Power 4 team is good for the fans to schedule a team like Austin Peay or somebody like that. But what he talked about was, quote, adopting an SEC philosophy with regards to scheduling, and he came armed and loaded for that particular question with facts about what the SEC does with their scheduling, saying that they play 36 Group of 5 and FCS games this year, and they only play 8 conference games. And Tony Petitti, when he was asked, taking the stage about conference expansion and whatnot, he didn't give me the answer I was looking for, so I'll get to it in a second. But he said, we don't want to expand the playoff if the SEC doesn't go to 9 conference games, and they want to do that. And there was a really, I think, concerted focus from both of them to drive that point home, because I think that is something that the Big Ten can kind of hold over the SEC in these negotiations. And if we accidentally get to the result I'm looking for, which is don't expand the playoff to 16 teams, and this is how you do it, I think that's a good thing. But, Cignetti was not defensive so much as he was just ready to attack the question that I gave to him, and I thought that his answer was reflective of a couple of things. First of all, he doesn't want to play the quality non-conference games, and he wants everything to focus on conference play. And Tony Petitti talked a lot about focusing on conference play. That's all great and fine, kind of, because I, as a college football fan, you as a college football fan, should not look at a college football season and then just be able to disregard what happens during the non-conference slate, because those can be really great, fun, exciting games. Like the slates we have this year, whether it's Miami, Notre Dame, Notre Dame plays USC every year. Of course, Ohio State playing Texas, LSU playing Clemson. These are the games we want to continue to have. And Cignetti was just dead set on, well, it's 9 conference games. That's how we got to do it. And Tony Petitti had a little bit of a different angle when I asked him about, scheduling. Hey, would you ever want to take non-conference scheduling out of the power of the schools? It's very clear neither one of these guys wants to do that. And that's too bad, because I was hoping Petitti, I thought Petitti had a bit of a two-sided answer at one point, or at least said two things that are a little contradictory, because he said, well, we want to create an incentive structure for schools to schedule quality non-conference games, but we're not going to force them to do that. It's not where our attention is. I don't know how those two things can really coexist, because at the same time, Petitti said, well, if you go 6-3 in the Big Ten, that's a really good record. And he was asked about the idea of an 8-4 team getting into the college football playoff, and saying, well, if a team loses a non-conference matchup against whoever it might be, and then goes 6-3 in the Big Ten, we feel like that's really good. And look, in other sports, you can have that sort of winning percentage result in you making the college football playoff. To which I say, well, this is not other sports. It was never supposed to be. I don't want it to always be like other sports. The uniqueness of college football is what has made, and it being distinct from other sports is one of the reasons that it has always been great. Petitti said they wanted to maximize the importance of regular season games. Well, you're not doing that if you move towards what both Cignetti and Petitti, and this is the second point I wanted to get to with both of these guys, they both highlighted that they would support an automatic qualifier model. Well, the automatic qualifiers don't maximize value of the entire regular season. It, I guess, enhances the importance of the conference games, but I think you already have the level of energy and intensity and urgency on a week-to-week basis that you already need. And if you go to this automatic qualifier model, well, then schools can do whatever they want in the non-conference slate, and it's not going to matter as much. You know, Petitti mentioned that it would, still affect seeding. You've got a straight seeding system and all that. And, yeah, okay, it does accomplish that, but that's not the same level of urgency on games as getting into the playoff or not. And so I just don't. I don't know how I could ever get behind the automatic qualifier format. And another thing that stood out to me about what Tony Petitti said is that the college football playoff committee, having more influence is not something that is going to get support from the Big Ten. Now, that would lead me to think he's against a 5+11 model, but he's also said, well, we'd like the SEC to go to 9 conference games. And, Curt Cignetti saying, hey, the Big Ten should get 4 bit. Why shouldn't they get 4 automatic qualifying spots? And my answer is I don't think anybody should get more than 1 automatic qualifier, which is your conference championship, to have that conference championship game maximize the stakes and to allow for, a situation where a team that's maybe on the bubble can automatically get themselves in. Because I've always viewed conference championship games as an extension of the regular season. So, unfortunately, these are not the answers that I was hoping necessarily that they would give. Not that I'm surprised by it necessarily, but I was hoping that, there would be more of a concerted effort on both of their parts. And these are just the coaches that were asked about it earlier today at media days. Well, of course, Cignetti's coach, and Cignetti's the only coach that was really asked about it a lot in light of, what they did with their non-conference schedule really recently. So I was disappointed, frankly, in hearing those answers, that Petitti doesn't want things to change. He wants schools to continue to have that incentive to schedule quality non-conference games. But then on the other side, he's saying, well, if we had this play-in weekend, fans would really adapt to love it, and they'd grow to, appreciate how exciting and fun it could be. Okay, maybe, sure, but then you're taking those quality non-conference games and you're just making them about seeding rather than making them potentially influence whether a team gets into the playoff at all. So that's where my priorities are at for where I'd like to see college football go to fix the scheduling model that they currently have. But a positive takeaway, to be sure, is I don't think Tony Petitti wants to change things, just change them. I think he is content to stay at 12 teams, which I think would be much better than going to 16. I think he would do that before he would regress the Big Ten conference schedule to 8 games or expand to 16 without the SEC going to 9 conference games. I want more quality college football games to be played across the board. Call me crazy. And I think that we're moving towards a model that doesn't do that or takes the urgency off some of those games. Like Ohio State, Texas should have such huge playoff implications this year, and it will, because we have a 12-team playoff, a straight seeding format, and no, top 4 automatic qualifiers and whatnot. If you have those AQs in the Big Ten and SEC, and it mostly applies to those conferences because it wouldn't be equitable across all the Power 4 leagues, of course. If you had 4 automatic qualifiers, well, the loser of that game isn't in a significantly worse place with regards to making the playoff, because then it comes down to what do you do in conference play. And, I mean, the idea, when it got thrown out there in the room during Petitti's press conference, of an 8-4 team, making the playoff repulses me to my core as a college football fan. So, disappointing that that's where we're at. Not necessarily surprising, but alas, the scheduling mess in college football continues. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. Bret Bielema is an easy guy to root for, man. He just is. And I am buying the Illini this year. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. Have you ever decided last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands rather than watching at home on TV. That is exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to go with you to the game. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple, which is the only thing buying tickets should ever be. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Plus, you know what you're going to pay before you check out because you can toggle on their all-in pricing feature, not get slapped with surprise fees as you check out. That bugs the crap out of me, and Game Time removes that. I love them for that, and many other reasons as well. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On College Football. Sunny Verma of Locked On Illini right here on the show in person here at Big Ten Media Days. Let's get right into it. I'll have some sound from Bret Bielema as well. Talk to him about the upcoming season, the excitement level, kind of what he expects there. But I'll just start you right here, Sunny. I'm picking Illinois to go 10-2. To live up to the hype. I'm here for it, man. I am. I like the squad. I like they have everything that I like. Returning coordinators, returning quarterback, solid foundation, clear identity. The schedule is not the easiest in the world, sure, but I think they're going 10-2. I've got the losses at home against Ohio State and the following game at Washington the next week. Okay. I think they drop 2 in a row but get hot. That therefore includes wins over USC, over Duke, over Indiana on the road. I think this is going to be a really fun season of Illini football. What do you make of that prediction?
10-2 is aggressive, but I think it's going to come down to those first 4 weeks. In those first 4 weeks, you're going to have the Week 2 game against Duke and Week 4 game against Indiana. You win those 2 games, you're at 4-0, and the schedule gets a little tougher. Of course, you have USC and Ohio State, but that back half of the schedule gets considerably easier. And what's a disadvantage is that Illinois doesn't have a bye week until Week 7. But what that means is on the second half of the schedule, they've got 2 bye weeks. And so, if they can get momentum and sustain momentum early in the schedule, avoid the injury, of course, the injury bug, I think 10-2 is a little aggressive. I'm not going to lie. I don't think I have them at 10-2. But I will tell you one thing, Spencer. You and I have been at Big Ten Media Day since yesterday now. I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm hearing a lot of 10 wins, 9 wins, and me.
I heard an 11 wins from the table right next to us.
It's one of those where I guess I'm a little surprised at me being an Illinois fan for 20 plus years. I hope they can come through. Unfortunately, being an Illinois fan, we tend to follow up successful seasons with not so successful seasons, and so today, I think we have the right guy in charge, Bret Bielema. I think he understands how to play with higher expectations. I think he's done this grind before. And, I think we got the right guy in charge. And I don't think you're ever going to hear me say that I think we're going to win 10 games. But I think that's more based on the past as opposed to what the present day and the future looks like.
I want to talk about those first 4 games because you touched on it and how important it is going to be for them to get off to a strong start. 2 legit road games. I wouldn't be surprised if they split. Because these are tough games. It's just the edge I give to Illinois in these contests is their quarterback was in their system last year. It's early in the year. Darian Mensah will be in his 2nd game with Duke. Fernando Mendoza will be in his 4th game with Indiana, compared to Luke Altmaier, who's in game, I lost track at this point with the Illini. So I wouldn't be surprised if they split, wind up 9-3. Their preseason win total 8.5. I do like them over. I promise I don't like everybody over in the Big Ten or in college football. I do like a good number of them. So I think those 2 games are so big. Illinois at Duke is so underrated as being a great college football game.
100% agree. Like, to piggyback on what you're saying, in today's modern landscape of college athletics, having a senior year quarterback who's played 3 seasons in your system is almost a cheat code. And I think a lot of people are overlooking that Duke game and how important that game could be. There's a chance that if Illinois wins that game, you're talking 3-0. Indiana, once again 3-0, because they've got Cupcake City in their first 3 games.
As we heard about.
Curt Cignetti, okay.
As we know.
But then you're talking about the possibility of a 3-0 Indiana team going up against a 3-0 Illinois team, 2 coaches who are very vocal in their enthusiasm for their teams and the spotlight that they think that they belong in. I think there's a chance, and especially I'm curious on your thoughts. Week 4, ESPN Game Day, Indiana, Illinois. Tell me why not.
Well, I don't have the slate memorized. I'm gonna pull that up. This is a real time check here for this particular question, because I don't think answering it any other way is frankly appropriate. So week 4, your slate, it is one of the top games. Like I'm not opposed to it at all. And by the way, the top 2 teams alphabetically in the Big Ten, Illinois and Indiana, pretty crazy that that's how it works out. But I didn't make those.
So while you're
rules.
looking that up, I will say, like, piggyback on this thought. Again, Curt Cignetti and Brett Bielema, I think it's fair to say they're not shy.
No,
So I really do think if Illinois can win that Duke game, then all of a sudden Brett's going to be on the mic and really talking about on every media session, every press conference, talking about how he thinks that ESPN should come to Champaign.
That's true.
We know the type of influence they've had, even last year, that the 100-year anniversary, they had Nike go all out and CBS in combination. Why? Josh Whitman, Brett Bielema. I think if they get past Duke, that Curt Cignetti, we know he's not shy. Brett Bielema, they'll both understand the spotlight that this could put on both programs.
let me throw a couple of games at you that are going to be a contention for game day that week. Texas Tech at Utah. Utah is a great place to go. Texas Tech is my preseason number 1 team in the Big 12. The slate is not insanely deep, though. I think it's entirely possible with the Curt Cignetti angle and Bielema, they could wind up in Bloomington. Florida is at Miami that week. We'll see how those teams start. Does Miami beat Notre Dame? Does Florida, hold serve in their first few games? It's not the toughest slate. Okay, I like that thought a lot, and I like what Brett Bielema had to say. Here is what the Illini coach said about this upcoming season.
With the bowl win to end last season, carrying that over into the start of this season, from our vantage point, sets some pretty lofty preseason expectations for your football team. How do you feel about that as a head coach, kind of going from being the hunter to the hunted?
Yeah, a great question. I think about this a lot. Like as long as I've been in it, I even go back to my time, as a player and as an assistant. That last game, a bowl game, you carry that with you all the way till the next year, right? No matter what you say, if you're coming back in that program, you carry that loss, or in our case, that win, that entire time frame, and it's a different feeling when you win, and especially if you win in a way that we did in that game against a really good football team. I think a lot of things, as crazy as this is, like if we had not won that game, I think the perspective on this season going forward would have been totally different than when we won it, right? I think everybody would have been, 9-4 team, that's typical Illinois, da-da-da-da-da. Whereas now everybody's got, because we return all those players, the expectation and the narrative around it is totally different. So I think it's important, though, hopefully these guys have kind of echoed those same thoughts. I've really stressed since January when we got back in the building, there's not one touchdown, tackle, or turnover from last year that carries into this year. I really believe you earn expectations. I firmly believe that anytime, some people can give you expectations, but if they just throw them at you and give them to you, they don't last long. And by the way we've done it, by what we've done to earn it, I think that's a big part of where we're at.
You have some pretty high-profile games on your schedule this year. The matchup with Duke, you've got USC, Ohio State. How exciting is that for you as a coach to have those opportunities to play in what can be some really, really big stages? Yeah,
I get it. I appreciate the question, but I think the only way we can attack those 4 games you just mentioned is to attack our opener. I get it. It's Western Illinois, then we go on the road to Duke, which I appreciate you mentioned is, in my opinion, a team that just watching them on film, have a lot of respect for Manny and what they do. They got a new quarterback in, right? That guy last year was pretty good, but this guy's really good. I think that's going to be it. They've moved their game up to Thursday before our game. to me, I think they did that for a reason. They wanted to get a two-day advantage of prep on us, right? So a lot of different things happen there. We come back, play a Western Michigan, a MAC team, but then we go to Indiana, right? And I would tell you, I've been doing this a while. In my opinion, we didn't play Indiana last year, and we really didn't have a lot of crossover games, so I didn't get a chance to watch them very much. Usually in our conference, you get enough carryover from watching guys, even though you may not play them. Oh, I watch them. Really only, I believe, had 2 games that we had crossover film with Indiana on. So I did a deep dive into them in February, and just the way they play offensively, defensively, special teams. Siggs has been successful everywhere he's been, and I think it really reflects on watching them play. So I would argue that, in my opinion, that game is as big as the others. Obviously, USC carries the tradition they have, but we have a Cannon Trophy with Purdue. That game's always going to be crazy. And then we have the latest bye week in the entire conference. We don't have a bye week till week 8. Most everybody else has them in week 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got a long stretch before we get a bye week. And Game 7 is the defending national champs who have a roster that is as good as anybody in college football. So we got our work cut out for us.
All right, wrapping up with Sunny Verma of Locked On Illini. Great to hear from Illinois' coach earlier. What do you make of what he said today at Media Days?
Again, he's always prepared for this, and every message that he has, you can tell that he's gone over it 10, 15, 20 times. He did this as one of the youngest coaches in Big Ten history, right, as the Wisconsin head coach. Now he's come back his second time around, and you can tell everything is strategic. The type of players he chooses is strategic. The way he answers everything. He's done this rodeo before, and again, some of your fans, they follow blue blood programs. Me following Illinois, we've never necessarily had that type of guy in charge who you're just confident in all their decision making. And Brett Bielema, again, I feel very lucky. I say one of my go-to sayings on my show, it's a great time to be an Illini, just considering our football and basketball programs. 10 wins, I love it.
10 wins. Let's see if they can do it for a second straight year. Nebraska, is this a pop year for the Cornhuskers? It just might be. Nebraska, is this the year? Is it finally the year? I mean, last year was kind of already the year because they made a bowl game. That was a big deal. I like Nebraska. I'm hesitant. I don't hate their schedule, though. They have a lot of their biggest games at home. USC is at home. Michigan is at home. Don't sleep on their week 1 game at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a respectable team in the Big 12. I think they're kind of lower part of the second tier of the Big 12, but still, don't sleep on that game in week 1. Nobody's got any knowledge of what anyone's going to be, so the fans will be plenty juiced up there for the Bearcats. But Nebraska's a 7-point favorite in that game. I do think that is about right. So Nebraska, and I spoke at a media session with Matt Rhule not long ago. You'll hear that interview a little bit later in this segment, but I like his team to go 9-3. I like Matt Rhule. I like the Dana Holgorsen hire at offensive coordinator. I know that some people might be a little more skeptical because it didn't work out in his last spot at Houston as the head coach, but he's not being asked to be the head coach. He's being asked to be the offensive coordinator. I still think that he's got those kind of chops, and so I do. My biggest, and I mean number one question, not that I asked Matt Rhule because I wanted to hear his thoughts on Dylan Raiola, but my number one question with Nebraska, how big of a loss is the defensive coordinator and staff going to be? Because they're at Florida State now. Mike Norvell went out and said, boy, I need one of the best defensive staffs in the country because I might be coaching for my job here in the next couple of seasons. They went and got Tony White. Why? Because he was really good. No other way around it. Now, I still expect, because Matt Rhule, he spoke earlier today at Media Days about how he's always had a little bit more of a lean, a little bit more attention on that side of the football. So I think they will be good enough. It does come down to Dylan Raiola, but I'm going to go through the schedule first, then we'll hear from Matt Rhule. So I'm putting Nebraska 9-3. Their preseason win total, according to our friends at FanDuel, is 7.5. And I do like them to go over. Their non-conference at Cincinnati, Akron, and Houston Christian. I think that's 3-0. Now, their home slate, again, has a lot of big-time games. Michigan and Michigan State to start off. Do not sleep on the Spartans. Don't sleep on the Spartans in that game. Michigan State beat Iowa last year. I called that upset. I think they're going to be a better team. I think Michigan State will be a bowl team this year. That's not somebody that you want to mess around with. Michigan, though, I think between these two schools, even though they're at home, The home field advantage for Nebraska hasn't been as good as the fan attendance would indicate. I think they're going to split with the Michigan schools. I'll take Sharon Moore to figure out a way to win that game, but Sharon Moore and Jonathan Smith, two outstanding in-game college football coaches. So I think they'll be 4-1 at that point. At Maryland, I think that's a win. Here's one that is going to sneak up on people. I think Nebraska loses at Minnesota. I'm not going full-fledged. They're 11-1, 10-2. I think 8-4 is more likely than 10-2. I've landed on 9-3, but I can definitely see Nebraska going 6-6 again, quite frankly, with this schedule. There are a lot of games that I think they win. They're capable of winning, but there's definitely no guarantees because they go at Minnesota. That is a tougher game that Penn State almost lost there. USC did lose on that field last season. PJ Fleck is solid. I think that's going to be a game that Nebraska, you have to just anticipate and bake in every year with Nebraska. They're going to have that underwhelming game. So I think they lose at Minnesota, then they beat Northwestern. I'll take them to beat USC at home and UCLA on the road before they lose to Penn State and then win at home against Iowa in the regular season finale. So I did predict Nebraska to go 9-3 last year. I'm doubling down on it. There are some teams like Auburn who I picked to do well last year, and they scarred me too much. I think Nebraska, with a true freshman starting quarterback last year, is going to be able to play a more consistent brand of football. And remember, they started 5-1 and then stumbled down the stretch. I think that this coaching staff with Raiola at quarterback, you keep him healthy, I think Matt Rhule is going to get them in a position to be a double-digit win team. I think 10-2 is their ceiling. I'm landing on 9-3. I'm betting on the staff. I'm betting on Dylan Raiola. Here is what Matt Rhule had to say about his young quarterback.
Coach, for Dylan Raiola this year, he starts as a true freshman. What needs to be the biggest area of growth for him this season for you guys to take a step forward?
I thought Dylan played really well last year. I think anytime you have a guy play for the first time and go to be a sophomore, I think one of the hardest things, as I said in my thing, is like as a young quarterback is handling those adverse moments. The thing I love about Dylan is he always wanted the ball in his hands. He's never shied away from that. He wants to go be the guy that wants to make the play. Like a lot of guys want to shoot a lot of shots, but they don't want to take the shot at the buzzer. Who wants to take the shot at the buzzer? And that kid wants to take the shot at the buzzer. I think we have a new coordinator. The quarterback coach is the same. I think he feels very comfortable. I think purely, we got to -2 last year. We have to be a team this year that leads the conference in not turning the ball over and taking the ball away. And most turnovers come from the quarterback position, so we have to protect for him better. We have to get open better. We have to have the right plays called. And then I think one of the changes you saw as the year went on last year is early in the year trying to make wow plays. Trying to always make a play, and at the end of the year, taking what it was given to him, checking the ball down. He had some real growth moments. We played Iowa, and as Coach Parker is one of the best coaches there is, he kept blitzing the back, and Dylan did a great job of making sure he was always protected, but he never had the back out in the route. And after the game, he was like, Coach, you told me one time that the first step for a quarterback is to make sure that they're protected. And then the second step for a quarterback when they really become a pro is they make sure the line picks up the blitz so they can get the back out and burn the blitz. And as we went into the Boston College game, something that most people will notice is he was flipping the protection when he saw the linebacker coming to make sure that he got the back out. And then in the spring, Butler's coming. Butler's the most competitive guy I've ever been around, so he's trying to bring these things at him. And Dylan's checking and rechecking. So I just think the game within the game, he's doing so well. It'll manifest itself though. It won't be a wow play that ends up on ESPN. It'll be a check down, but he got the back out when people are trying to blitz him and play man. And so I think his command of those things, but his willingness to take the play that's there and not try to make too big of a play, are what will allow us to play championship football.
How's it been for him with Coach Holgerson as the offensive coordinator?
I think it's been a great fit. They've been awesome. They've been great. I think they see each other. They see the game the same way. And one thing about Dana, I'm just going to say it over and over and over again, because I think everyone sees Dana and they see the old wild, what do they call it, the Red Bull, and this guy's a grinder. He's a worker. He's in there all the time. If you don't know, if you're not detailed, you're not executing, you're not going to play. Doesn't care about, going back to the question earlier, he doesn't care about how much money you make. He doesn't care about how many plays you made last week. He cares about your preparation that week. And probably as a fault to me, that's the way I am on defense. And I've probably never been that way on offense because I'm probably more bent the other way. And so having a guy who sees it like me is really, really good.
Sometimes making the simple play is all you need to do. Those who, didn't like Tom Brady much said he was a check down merchant. Well, you know what? Sometimes that's the right play. Sometimes taking a free 5 to 7 yards and not always trying to make the hero play is the right thing to do. So I loved what Matt Rhule had to say about his quarterback there. And I think that if he drills that into Raiola's head, but still allows him from time to time to make the spectacular throws, I think he could have a heck of a college football season. And I do subconsciously kind of root for Nebraska. Those fans are so loyal and so great, and they've just been through the ringer time and time and time again. So maybe this is wishful thinking on my part, but I'll take Nebraska to go 9-3. I don't think they make the playoff or the Big Ten championship game this year because I think all 3 losses will come in conference play. But I think this is going to be a real step forward. I think Matt Rhule is a good coach. I think their roster is in a pretty good space. But, I think it comes down to the defensive staff and the quarterback. 2 biggest things I'm looking forward to the Cornhuskers this year. A stumbling way to end the show, but a way to end it nonetheless. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.